know what Italian word I love? Allora. I don't even know what it means. Allora. People say it all the time.
As Master of None's meditations on dating in the smartphone age continue into the sophomore season, the show gets even bolder. Creators Aziz Ansari and Alan Yang draw on Italian film classics of the past and apply their cinematic sensibility to problems of the present. Master of None aligns itself as part of a grand cinematic tradition. As we look at these ultra-wide shots, we have no doubt that the show aspires to be and is art, and its bold artistic self-assertion makes the show a game changer for what future TV might look like. In season 2, we open on Dev working as an apprentice at a pasta shop in Italy. The pan in the first episode to Dev's bedside stack of Blu-rays announces to us which movies Dev and Ansari and Yang have been watching in preparation for the season. Vittorio De Sica's Bicycle Thieves, Michelangelo Antonioni's La Notte and L'Avventura, and Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita, 8½, and Amarcord. Master of None is rising to their level of cinematic poetry, their searching existential inquiries, the seriousness with which they treat personal dilemmas, and their inherently cool mood. The show pioneers a new form of what we might call Arthouse TV, or the Arthouse rom-com.
Ooh, I want to send a little hi, kitty. Hi, kitty!
Wait, you sending that girl the same gift? They're all getting hot cuties?
Well, I want to say hi, and they're definitely all cuties. Let me make you one.
After World War II, neorealist directors like Vittorio De Sica, Roberto Rossellini, and Luchino Visconti used a realistic, down-to-earth style to represent the day-to-day lives of poor people in a country that had been broken by war. Season 2's first episode, entirely in black and white and largely in Italian, is called The Thief, a direct homage to De Sica's 1948 Bicycle Thieves. A defining example of neorealism, Bicycle Thieves tells the tragic story of poor father Antonio and his young son Bruno as they search for Antonio's stolen bicycle, which he desperately needs in order to work to support his family. In Master of None, it's not Dev's bike that's been stolen, but his phone, containing the number of a beautiful woman he's just met. To the outside, Dev's loss appears trivial, a first-world problem that couldn't be more different from Antonio's need to feed his family. The homage to sorrow-filled neorealism comically highlights the absurdity of the phone's necessity. Dev picks up a young kid, Mario, to stand in for Bruno, and briefly, like Antonio, Dev himself becomes the thief of the items stolen from him. Yet to Dev, the tragedy is earnest. What he's lost is an opportunity for romance that he can't know for sure wasn't the real thing. While someone like Dev knows he's privileged not to have the problems of Antonio, what he wants most, to meet someone to share his life with, continues to elude him. Vincent F. Verrocchio has called the neorealist movement cinema of anxiety. Bicycle Thieves structures anxiety of social realities into the plot to draw us into feeling Antonio's desperation. In a very different way, Master of None's TV of anxiety pulls us into relating to Dev's struggles with loneliness, the fear of never finding someone, and the difficulty of living an authentic life.
I just haven't met anyone I had a connection with like that in a long time. And it's gonna go away. For a stupid reason.
Neorealism abandoned the past whitewashed sentimental films for a grittier, realistic representation. Master of None also makes realism a priority. It gets serious when necessary, it holds longer than we expect on a small moment or feeling, and more than chasing a particular laugh or plot outcome, it's trying to capture truth. The long take of Dev alone in the back of the cab at the end of the dinner party, interrupted only by one short cut to his phone, captures the real feeling of a lonely ride home. While most TV shows would cut out of this moment, here we share in the interminable torture of not being able to cut away from our own dissatisfaction or loneliness in the same situation. Master of None's realism also comes from the texture of mixing up, parodying, and reinterpreting genre forms. This TV of realism has fun lambasting so-called reality TV.
I like it, so you guys are like really best friends.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of the title of the show. My best friend's a guy named Arnold. We're just co-workers. Yeah.
Neorealism was marked by its street-level view of the everyday lives of the poor, filmed on location with largely unknown actors. Master of None's New York I Love You pays respect to this tradition by abandoning the series' main cast in favor of a day in the life of 3 blue-collar workers to represent a wider range of experience.
Yeah, girl. How good was Emma Watson?
The pause in the main story reminds us that Dev's romantic struggles are a small drop in the bucket of trials facing millions of New Yorkers. And in a fun twist, seeing Dev take in the movie Death Castle alongside these strangers, the cute comic button tells us we are all connected. The two Italian directors that Master of None draws on the most are Federico Fellini and Michelangelo Antonioni. Coming in near the end of neorealism, Antonioni and Fellini ushered in more decadent films about bourgeois characters, while rejecting traditional plot structures in favor of mood-driven, cool alienation, existential inquiry, and cinematic poetry. In Amarsi un po', Dev's and Francesca's dance moves echo the dancing in 8½, and the opening shots of New York echo the famous helicopter shots at the start of La Dolce Vita. The 1983 song playing at the start of Le Nozze is also called Dolce Vita, and like Amarcord, which is dialect for I Remember, loosely inspired by Fellini's own childhood, Master of None continues its preference for comic vignettes and the cinematic feeling of a youth entering a crazy world and observing its colorful cast of characters. The deepest homages, though, are to Antonioni and his L'Avventura, La Notte, and L'Eclisse, a spiritual trilogy united by similar themes and all starring Monica Vitti. The second episode, Le Nozze, sounds like La Notte. Le Nozze actually means wedding or marriage, while La Notte means night. But La Notte depicts a lavish party during which Marcello Mastroianni's character grapples with the realization that his wife no longer loves him. And in Master of None, Arnold also struggles to accept that his ex-girlfriend is getting married, and to someone who looks just like him but smaller.
Is that the groom?
Hold me back, Captain. Hold me back.
Whoa, hold on.
Dude, you're bigger than me.
He's stealing Arnie's essence.
Working within the same theme, Dev decides to stop texting his ex Rachel so he can commit to moving on. The homage is sealed when it starts raining and the guests jump into the pool, a scene that recreates La Notte. Amarsi un po' translates to loving each other a little. It's the name of a 1977 Italian song that plays at the end of the episode, and a 1984 rom-com. The song's words, loving each other a little is like drinking, capture how Dev and Francesca are dipping their toes in the water of love, wondering whether loving each other really, long-term, would be as easy or as fun as this. The episode borrows directly from L'Eclisse when Dev and Francesca kiss through glass before actually kissing. And of course, the biggest inspiration, especially in this episode, is L'Avventura, the story of the search for the missing Anna by her best friend Claudia and her boyfriend Sandro, who soon forget all about Anna and begin a love affair. Like the missing friend, Francesca's fiancé Pino is noticeably absent. The parallels are made very explicit when Dev and Francesca watch L'Avventura, and Dev imagines that they are Sandro and Claudia. The vibrant Francesca herself feels like an actress out of one of these iconic movies, and the show intentionally draws that comparison, almost as if Dev has imagined this woman for himself out of watching enough Italian movies.
Definitely that lady from L'Avventura.
Monica Vitti. Yeah, good choice.
I like the lady in 8½, Claudia.
Claudia Cardinale.
Dev himself channels a Marcello Mastroianni style of hero. He's not an everyman. He's charming, well-off, lucky. He has a good income and lots of free time, which gives him space to contemplate his dissatisfaction and alienation. When Dev is trying to get over Francesca, he chooses between watching a terrible comedy to forget her or L'Avventura, and he chooses the good movie. His choice of L'Avventura here is a meta-commentary reflecting the show's ambitions. It doesn't want to be a dumb, enjoyable comedy that numbs our pain. It wants to be the beautiful, romantic story that moves us, even though it hurts. And its philosophy of life is likewise that we should take our own lives seriously, commit to the life we really want and who we want to be, even though it's difficult.
You can't be lukewarm. What's lukewarm? It's not hot, not cold, it's in the middle.
I don't want to be lukewarm.
L'Avventura, La Notte, and L'Eclisse are often thought of as films in which nothing really happens. Antonioni radically rejected the tyranny of plot-driven storytelling, and many people objected to this, or still find his films boring today. Yet Master of None's slow-paced growth, especially in Amarsi un po', as Dev and Francesca develop feelings for one another, meanders along in L'Avventura's ambivalent footsteps. It captures the film's emotional confusion and lack of a clear path forward. Dev questions whether his sadness is really about Francesca in particular.
I felt really connected to somebody. It felt good.
Like Sandro and Claudia, they're reaching out to quell their loneliness, but they don't know with certainty what it is they're really looking for.
A month ago, I knew everything about me, and I knew that I was going to marry Pino, and We have kids.
La Ventura ends without closure, and Master of None's second season also ends in ambiguity. We see a moment of Francesca in bed with Dev, and we question whether it could be a flashback to the night of the snowstorm, since it's snowing outside the window. But she's wearing a different shirt. Meanwhile, the editing of the preceding scenes create the feeling that this moment could be in one or both of their heads, so the reality isn't confirmed for us for sure. Shortly before this, Dev bumps into his ex Rachel and has a hurried conversation with her that he can't wait to get out of.
Hey, Rachel, what's up?
How are you? How is everything?
Things are good.
She's a stranger who means nothing to him now that he's in love with Francesca. It's a significant meeting for its insignificance. And again, it captures something real that many people experience, running into an ex who now feels like a stranger. Meanwhile, we can interpret the meaning of the scene in opposite ways. It could reinforce how deep his feelings for Francesca really are, since his connection with Rachel pales so much in comparison. Or it could signal that one day, running into Francesca like this could be just as uneventful. Our lives can't escape this ambiguity of never quite knowing if the reality we feel in this moment will disappear, and if the person we love will one day become a stranger. Life is that transience, and that never knowing. As a romantic comedy set in New York, Master of None invites inevitable comparisons to Woody Allen. It calls to mind Allen's upper-middle-class perspective, romantic consternation, and neurotic walking and talking. Alessandra Mastronardi as Francesca also featured in Allen's 2012 To Rome with Love. Like Allen's Manhattan, which uses few cuts, sometimes leaving the camera in place almost like we're watching a play, DP Mark Schwartzbard has said that Yang and Ansari wanted a cinematic look with shots that would develop. Master of None isn't quick to cut, but favors wider shots and long takes. In film theory terms, this is called a mise-en-scène style as opposed to montage. According to the cinematographer, the aesthetic was, quote, all about old lenses and filtering to create a soft, glowy, and romantic vision of New York. And he cited the influence of 70s movies like Hal Ashby's Shampoo and Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye. The show's restrained choice to play out most of its action on long takes of wides or medium wides makes it all the more compelling when we do get close-ups, as in the key scene when Dev finally tells Francesca his feelings. Dev's frustration has been mirrored in the camera that won't let us get too close, until this emotional reveal finally allows us that proximity.
What if I told you I met someone like that? But they're engaged.
The unhurried walking and talking courtship also reminds us of Richard Linklater's Before trilogy. And the love triangles and spontaneous dance parties, plus Francesca's ineffable whimsy and looks, call to mind French New Wave cinema. It's not a big stretch to imagine her subbing in for Anna Karina in a Jean-Luc Godard film. In 1997, Roger Ebert asked, "Why don't we have movies like La Ventura anymore? Because we don't ask the same kind of questions anymore. We have replaced the purpose of life with the choice of lifestyle." Perhaps Master of None, too, is asking us to once again consider not just what we want, but why we want it. Our relief when Francesca finally admits to sharing Dev's feelings is palpable, yet our anxiety persists because there's no way to know if taking the leap is really right for her or him. Despite what more conventional TV or movies might have us believe,
I love Josh.
more often than not, we find ourselves in situations where we know we feel something, but it isn't as simple as knowing I love you forever. The best we can hope for might be to spend time with someone who lends our life a sense of purpose, at least for now.
Hey, you don't think we met each other at a bar or something that we'd hit it off?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Who knows?
I think we would.